The Famous 5 Stories by Enid Blyton. Five go off to camp.
Two jolly fine tents, 4 ground sheets, 4 sleeping bags. I say, what about Timmy? Isn't he going to have a sleeping bag too?
Said Dick with a grin. The other 3 children laughed, and Timmy the dog thumped his tail hard on the ground. The 4 children, Julian, tall and strong for his age, Dick, George and Anne, were busy planning a camping holiday. George was a girl, not a boy, but she would never answer to her real name, Georgina. With her freckled face and short curly hair, she really did look more like a boy than a girl.
It's absolutely wizard being allowed to go on a camping holiday all by ourselves,
Said Dick.
Well, we shan't be quite all by ourselves,
Said Anne.
Don't forget we've got Mr. Luffy to keep an eye on us. He'll be camping quite near.
Mr. Luffy was a master at the boys' school, an elderly, dreamy fellow with a passion for studying all kinds of insect life.
It's more likely we'll have to keep an eye on him,
Said Julian. Julian produced a map from his pocket. He opened it, and the 4 children sprawled around it. The map showed a vast and lonely stretch of moorland, with very few houses indeed.
Just a few small farms, that's all,
Said Julian, pointing to 1 or 2.
See, that's about the place where we're going, just there. And on the opposite slope is a small farm, where we shall get milk, eggs and butter when we need them. Luffy's been there before.
Dick's finger followed a small winding road that made its way over the wild stretch of moorland.
That's the road we go,
He said.
and I suppose we strike off here. Look, where a cart track is shown. That would go to the farm. We shall have to carry our stuff from wherever Luffy parks his car and take it to our camping place.
Not too near Luffy, I hope.
Said George. The others laughed, and Timmy stretched his doggy mouth into a grin again. His tongue hung out happily. It was good to have all 4 of his friends with him again, and to hear them planning a holiday. Timmy went to school with George and Anne in term time, and he missed the 2 boys very much. But he belonged to George, and wouldn't dream of leaving her. Julian folded up the map again.
I hope all the things we've ordered will come in good time,
He said.
Oh, I do wish Tuesday would come. I'm tired of waiting.
Said Anne.
It'll come all right.
Said Julian. And so it did, of course. It dawned bright and sunny, with a sky that was a deep blue flecked with tiny white clouds. Mr. Luffy arrived half an hour late, just when everyone was beginning to feel he'd forgotten to come. He was at the wheel of his big old car, beaming. "Hello, hello," he cried. "All ready, I see. Good for you. Pile the things on the trailer, will you? Mine are there too, but there's plenty of room." They said goodbye to the watching grown-ups and climbed excitedly into the car. Mr. Luffy started up his engine and put the lever into first gear with a frightful noise. Off they went, waving madly and shouting goodbye all the way down the road.
Goodbye!
Goodbye!
Hurrah! We're off at last!
They stopped about 12:30 for lunch. Mr. Luffy had provided sandwiches for everyone. They were all very hungry. Timmy had a bit from everyone, usually the last bite, and watched each sandwich eagerly till his turn came. The party set off again in the car. Anne fell asleep. Dick gave an enormous yawn and fell asleep too. "We won't stop for tea till we get there," said Mr. Luffy suddenly, and Dick woke up with a jump at the sound of his voice. "We should be there about 5:30. Look, you can see the moorland in the distance now." Rising up to the left for miles upon miles was the heather-covered moorland. It looked wild and lonely and beautiful, blazing with heather, and shading off into a purple blue in the distance. The car climbed steadily. It passed 1 or 2 small houses, and in the distance the children could see little farms in clearings. Sheep dotted the moorland, and some of them stood staring at the car as it drove by. The road forked into 2. To the right was a good road, leading on and on. To the left it became not much more than a cart track. "That's the one we take," said Mr. Luffy, and the car jerked and jolted over it. "I shall leave the car here," said Mr. Luffy, bringing it to a standstill beside a great rock that stood up bare and grey out of the moor. "It will be sheltered from the worst winds and rain. I thought we'd camp over yonder." There was a little slope just there, backed by some enormous gorse bushes. Thick heather grew everywhere. Julian nodded. It was a good place for camping.
"Right, sir,"
he said.
"Shall we have tea first, or unpack now?"
"Tea first," said Mr. Luffy. "I've brought a very good little stove for boiling and cooking things."
We've got a stove too,
said Anne. She scrambled out of the car and looked all around.
Is that the farm over there? The one we shall go to for eggs and things?
She pointed to a tiny farmhouse on the hill opposite. It stood in a small clearing. In a field behind it were 3 or 4 cows and a horse. "That's Ollie's farm," said Mr. Luffy. "It's changed hands, I believe, since I was here 3 years ago. I hope the new people are nice. Now, did we leave something to eat for our tea?" They had. They sat in the heather with bees humming all round them and munched solidly for 15 minutes.
"And now I suppose we'd better put up our tents,"
said Julian.
"Come on, Dick, let's unpack the trailer. Mr. Luffy, we don't intend to camp on top of you, sir, because you won't want 4 noisy children too near. Where would you like your tent put?"
"I'll pitch my tent down there, where that old gorse bush is," he said. "And if you'd like to put yours up here, you'd be well sheltered, and we shan't interfere with one another at all." By the time that dusk came creeping up the heather-covered moorland, all 3 tents were up, the ground sheets were put down, and the sleeping bags unrolled. "I'm going to turn in," said Mr. Luffy. "My eyes are almost shut. Good night, all of you. Sleep well." He disappeared into the dusk. Anne yawned widely, and that set the others off too.
"Come on, let's turn in too,"
said Julian.
"Good night, girls."
Julian was awakened by Timmy busily licking his face. He sat up with a start. The girls were peering in at his tent, grinning. They were fully dressed already.
It's a simply heavenly morning,
said George.
Going to be a frightfully hot day. Do get up. We're going to find the stream and wash in it.
Dick awoke too. He and Julian decided to go and take a bathe in the stream. They wandered out into the sunny morning. The girls were just coming back from the stream.
It's over there,
said Anne, pointing.
It's a lovely little brown stream. Awfully cold. We've left the bucket there. Bring it back full, will you?
What for?
asked Dick.
For washing up the dishes,
said Anne.
I say, do you think we ought to wake up Mr. Luffy? There's no sign of him yet.
No, let him sleep,
said Julian. Timmy gravely trotted off with the boys and showed them the stream. Julian and Dick at once lay down in the clear, cold water and kicked wildly. Timmy leapt in too, and there were yells and shrieks. They walked back to the girls. There was still no sign of Mr. Luffy. Anne had fried big rounds of bread in the fat, and the boys told her she was the best cook in the world.
Anne, hadn't you better fry something for old Luffy now?
Said Julian.
I'll go and wake him.
He went down to the tent. He cleared his throat and called politely.
Are you awake yet, sir?
There was no answer. Julian went to the tent opening. The tent was empty.
He's not here,
said Julian.
Where can he be?
There was a silence. Then Dick called out again.
Is his bug tin gone? You know, the tin box with straps that he takes with him when he goes insect hunting.
Julian inspected the inside of the tent again.
OK,
he called, much to everyone's relief.
His clothes are gone, and so is his bug tin. He must have slipped out early before we were awake.
That would be just like him,
said Dick.
Anne, can you get on with the doings if Dick and I go to the farmhouse and see what food they've got?
Asked Julian.
Right,
said Anne.
You go too, George. I can manage everything.
Anne got on with her jobs, humming softly to herself in the sunshine. She soon finished them, and just then Mr. Luffy reappeared, and she started making him some breakfast. Soon after, the others came back too. The boys and George were full of talk about the farm.
It's a nice little place,
said Julian.
Pretty farmhouse, nice little dairy, well-kept sheds, and even a grand piano in the drawing room.
Gracious,
said Anne, turning over the bacon in the pan.
The farmer's got a fine new car,
went on Julian.
Brand new. His boy showed it to us.
Very interesting, said Mr. Luffy.
And you should have seen the lorries they've got.
said Dick.
Beauties. We got eggs and butter and fruit and even some bacon,
said George. Mr. Luffy was now eating his breakfast. What are you going to do today? He asked.
We might as well take a picnic lunch and go off somewhere,
said Julian. You won't get lost, will you? Said Mr. Luffy.
Oh, no, sir,
said Julian with a laugh.
I've got a compass anyway.
They had their lunch on a hilltop overlooking a vast stretch of heather, with grey-white blobs in it here and there, the sheep that wandered everywhere.
Come on,
said Julian at last.
Let's go on. We'll walk to the top of the next slope, and then I think we ought to turn back.
They climbed through the heather. At the top they got quite a surprise. Down in the valley below was a silent and deserted stretch of railway line. The rails appeared out of the black hole of a tunnel mouth, ran for about half a mile, and then ended in what seemed to be a kind of railway yard.
Let's go down and have a squint,
said Dick.
Come on, we've got plenty of time.
They set off down the hill to the line. They arrived some way from the tunnel mouth and followed the lines to the deserted railway yard.
Look,
said Dick.
There are some old wagons on that set of lines over there. They look as if they haven't been used for 100 years.
A door flew open in a tiny hut, and a figure came out. It was a one-legged man, with a wooden peg for his other leg, 2 great arms that might quite well belong to a gorilla, and a face as red as a tomato, except where grey whiskers grew. He opened his mouth, and out came a husky, hoarse whisper. "What you doing?" The 4 children stared at him. He came nearer to them, and his wooden leg tip-tapped queerly. He peered at the children as if he could hardly see them. "I've broke me glasses," he said, and to their astonishment and dismay, 2 tears ran down his cheeks. "Poor old wooden leg Sam, he's broke his glasses." Anne felt sorry for the strange old man, but she kept well behind Julian. Sam peered at them again. "Ain't you got no tongues in your heads? Am I seeing things again, or are you there?"
We're here, and we're real,
said Julian.
Who are you?
"I've told you. I'm Wooden Leg Sam," said the old man impatiently. "The watchman, see? Though what there is to watch here beats me. Does they think I'm a-going to watch for them spook trains? Well, I'm not." The children listened curiously.
What spook trains?
asked Julian. Wooden Leg Sam came closer. "Spook trains, I tell 'ee. Trains what come out of that tunnel by nights, all by themselves, and go back all by themselves. Nobody in 'em." Anne shivered. She pulled at Julian's hand.
Julian, let's go. I don't like it.
The old man seemed suddenly to change his mood. He picked up a large cinder and threw it at Dick, hitting him on the head. "You clear out! I'm watchman here, ain't I? And what did they tell me? They told me to chase away anyone that came. Now clear out, I tell you." Dick rubbed his head.
We're going,
he said soothingly to Sam. It was plain that the old fellow was quite odd in his mind. The children and Timmy left the deserted railway yard behind them.
It's a funny business altogether,
said Julian.
I wonder why that yard isn't used anymore, and where that tunnel leads to, and if trains ever do run there.
When they at last got back to the camping place, they saw Mr. Luffy sitting waiting for them. The blue smoke from his pipe curled up into the air. "Hello, hello," he said. His brown eyes looked up at them from under his shaggy eyebrows. "I was beginning to wonder if you'd got lost. Still, I suppose that dog of yours would always bring you back." Tim wagged his tail politely. He agreed. "Well," said Mr. Luffy, "had a nice walk?"
Yes,
said Anne.
except that we met a queer one-legged man who told us he saw spook trains.
Mr. Luffy laughed. "I hope he didn't frighten you."
He did a bit,
said Anne. The next day the children were up very early as Mr. Luffy, and they all had breakfast together. Mr. Luffy had a map of the moorlands, and he studied it carefully after breakfast. "I think I'll go off for the whole day," he said to Julian, who was sitting beside him. "What are you going to do?"
We'll go over to the farm and get some more food,
said Julian. "Right," said Mr. Luffy. "Don't worry about me if I'm not back till dusk." He went off down the slope to his own tent. George and Anne washed up while the boys tightened some tent ropes that had come loose and generally tidied up. They set off over the heather, their knees brushing through the honeyed flowers and sending scores of busy bees into the air. It was a lovely day again, and the children felt free and happy. They came to the trim little farm. Julian looked about for the farm boy. The boy came out of a shed and whistled to them.
Hello, you come for some more eggs? I've collected quite a lot for you.
He stared at Anne.
You didn't come yesterday. What's your name?
Anne,
Said Anne.
what's yours?
Jock.
Said the boy with a grin. He was rather a nice boy, Anne thought, with straw-coloured hair, blue eyes, and rather a red face.
Have you always lived on a farm?
Anne asked.
I've lived on two.
Said Jock.
Owl Farm and this one. Mum and I had to leave Owl Farm when Dad died, and we went to live in a town for a year. I hated that. But I thought your father was here.
Said Dick.
Well, that's my stepfather.
Said Jock.
He's no farmer, though.
He looked round and lowered his voice.
It's my mother that tells the men what to do. Still, he gives her plenty of money to do everything well, and we've got fine machinery and wagons and things.
Jock took the 4 children to the dairy. His mother was at work there with a girl. She smiled at the children.
Good morning. Hungry again? Would you like to stay and have dinner with my Jock?
Oh, yes, do let's.
Cried Anne in delight.
I'd like that. Can we do?
Yes. Thank you very much, Mrs.
I'm Mrs. Andrews,
Said Jock's mother.
but Jock is Jock Robbins. He's the son of my first husband. Well, stay to dinner, all of you, and I'll see if I can give you a meal that'll keep you going for the rest of the day.
This sounded good. The 4 children felt thrilled, and Timmy wagged his tail hard. He liked Mrs. Andrews.
Come on.
Said Jock joyfully.
I'll take you all round the farm, into every corner. It's not very big, but we're going to make it the best little farm on the moorlands. You've got plenty of men here to work the farm.
Said Julian.
They're not good workers.
Said Jock, his face creasing into frowns.
Mum's always getting wild with them. Dad gives her plenty of men to work the farm, but he always chooses the wrong ones. Where's your stepfather?
Said Julian.
He's away for the day.
Said Jock.
Thank goodness.
He added with a sideways look at the others.
Why, don't you like him?
Asked Dick.
He's all right,
Said Jock.
but he doesn't like me one bit. I try to like him for Mum's sake, but I'm always glad when he's out of the way.
Your mother's nice.
Said George.
Oh, yes, Mum's grand.
Said Jock.
You don't know what it means to her to have a little farm of her own again.
They came to a large barn. The door was locked.
I told you what was in here before.
Said Jock.
Lorries. You can peek through that hole here at them. Don't know why my stepfather wants to buy up so many, but I suppose he got them cheap. He loves to get things cheap and sell them dear.
A bell rang loudly.
Good. Dinner.
Said Jock.
We'd better wash. We're all filthy. Hope you feel hungry, because I guess Mum's got a super dinner for us.
They all sat down to eat. There was a big meat pie, a cold ham, salad, potatoes in their jackets, and homemade pickles. After the first course, there were plums and thick cream, or jam tarts and the same cream. Everyone tucked in hungrily.
I've never had such a lovely meal in my life.
Said Anne at last. Mrs. Andrews handed them a chocolate each and sent them out of doors.
You go and have a rest now.
She said.
Talk to Jock. He doesn't get enough company of his own age in the holidays. You can stay on to tea if you like.
Everyone said thank you. They found a fine place against a haystack and sat leaning against it, the sun shining down warmly on them.
Let's ask Jock about the spook trains.
Said George.
Spook trains? Whichever are they?
Asked Jock.
Never heard of them. Well, I'll tell you what we know.
Said Julian. He began to tell Jock about their visit to the deserted railway yard, and Wooden Leg Sam, and his peculiar behaviour. Jock listened enthralled.
Cool, I wish I'd been with you. Let's all go there together, shall we? That was quite an adventure you had, wasn't it? Well, I don't know about that.
Said Julian.
The old watchman's probably gone strange in the head through being alone there so much. He's just remembering the trains that used to go in and out before the line was given up. What about going down there one night and watching for a spook train?
Suggested Jock.
No!
Said Anne in horror.
You needn't come. Just us 3 boys.
And me.
Said George at once.
I'm as good as any boy, and I'm not going to be left out. Timmy's coming too.
Oh, please don't make these awful plans,
begged poor Anne. It was tea time before any of them had expected it. There were homemade scones with new honey. There was sticky brown gingerbread, hot from the oven, and a big solid fruitcake that looked almost like a plum pudding when it was cut. It was so black.
Oh, dear. I wish now I hadn't had so much lunch,
sighed Anne.
I don't feel hungry enough to eat a bit of everything, and I would so like to.
There was the sound of a car coming slowly up the rough track to the farmhouse, and Mrs. Andrews looked up.
That's Mr. Andrews come back,
she said.
My husband, you know, Jock's stepfather.
Mr. Andrews came in. He was a short, dark little man, with a weak face and a nose much too big for it. He stopped short when he saw the 5 children.
Hello, dear. Jock's got friends here today. Would you like a bit of tea in your room?
Well, said Mr. Andrews, smiling a watery kind of smile, perhaps it would be best. I've had a worrying kind of day and not much to eat.
I'll get you a tray of ham and pickles and bread,
said his wife.
It won't take a minute. You go and wash.
Mr. Andrews went out. Mrs. Andrews bustled about with this and that, laying a tray with a snow-white cloth and plates of food. Mr. Andrews put his head in at the door. My meal ready? He asked. Well, Jock, had a good day?
Yes, thanks,
said Jock as his stepfather took the tray from his mother.
And, oh, I say, do you know anything about spook trains?
Mr. Andrews was just going out of the door. He turned in surprise. Spook trains? What are you talking about?
Well, Julian says there's an old deserted railway yard, and spook trains are supposed to come out of the tunnel there in the dark of night. Have you heard of them?
Mr. Andrews stood stock still, his eyes on his stepson. Then he came back into the room and kicked the door shut behind him. I'll have my tea here after all, he said. Well, to think you've heard of those spook trains. I've been careful not to mention them to your mother, or to you, Jock, for fear of scaring you.
Golly,
said Dick.
Are they really true, then? They can't be.
You tell me all you know and how you know about it, said Mr. Andrews, sitting down at the table with his tray. Go on, and don't miss out a thing. Julian decided to tell, very shortly, what had happened at the old railway yard, and what Wooden-Leg Sam had said. Mr. Andrews listened to it with the greatest interest, never once taking his eyes off Julian. Then he sat back and drank a whole cup of strong tea at one gulp. Now, he said, you listen to me. Don't any of you ever go down that yard again. It's a bad place.
Why?
Asked Julian.
What do you mean, a bad place?
Things have happened there, years and years ago, said Mr. Andrews. Bad things, accidents. It was all shut up after that, and the tunnel wasn't used anymore. See? Nobody was allowed to go there, and nobody did because they were scared. They knew it was a bad place where bad things happen. Anne felt frightened.
But, Mr. Andrews, you don't mean there really are spook trains, do you?
She asked, her face rather pale. Mr. Andrews pursed his lips and nodded very solemnly indeed. That's just what I do mean. Spook trains come and go. Nobody knows why, but it's bad luck to be there when they come. They might take you away, see? Julian laughed.
Oh, not as bad as that, sir, surely. Anyway, you're frightening Anne, so let's change the subject. I don't believe in spook trains.
Julian got up from the table and turned to Mrs. Andrews.
Thank you very much for a lovely day and lovely food,
he said.
We'll be going. Goodbye, Mrs. Andrews. Goodbye, Jock. Come along tomorrow and have a picnic with us, will you? Oh, yes. Yes, I will. But wait a minute. Aren't you going to take any food with you?
Yes, of course they are,
said Mrs. Andrews, getting up from her chair. She went out into the scullery, where there was a big cold larder. Julian followed her. He carried the 2 baskets.
I'll give you plenty,
said Mrs. Andrews, putting loaves, butter and cream cheese into the baskets.
I know what appetites you youngsters have.
Julian thanked Mrs. Andrews and insisted on paying her. She came into the kitchen with him, and he saw that the others had already gone outside. Only Mr. Andrews was left eating ham and pickles.
Goodbye, sir,
said Julian politely. He caught up with the others. Jock was with them.
I'm just coming halfway with you. I say, My stepfather was pretty scary about those trains, wasn't he?
I felt pretty scary too,
said Anne.
I shan't go down to that yard again, ever. Will you, George?
If the boys did, I would,
said George.
Are you going to the yard again?
Asked Jock eagerly.
We might go,
said Julian.
We'll take you with us if we do, but the girls aren't to come.
Well, I like that,
said George angrily.
As if you could leave me behind. When have I been scared of anything? I'm as brave as any of you.
Yes, I know. You can come as soon as we find out it's all a silly story,
said Julian.
I shall come whenever you go,
flashed back George. But Julian wouldn't change his mind.
I mean what I say. The girls won't come if we do go, so that's that.
George said nothing, but everyone could feel mutiny in the air. The next morning the children had breakfast with Mr. Luffy. Dick said to him,
We're expecting Jock, that's the boy at the farm, to come up for the day, and we thought we'd go out walking and take our food with us. Are you going out too, sir?
Not today, said Mr. Luffy. I want to mount some of the specimens I found. Also, I'd like to meet your farm friend. What's his name? Jock?
Yes, sir,
said Julian.
Right, we'll bring him along as soon as he comes.
But Jock didn't come. The children waited for him all the morning, and he didn't turn up. They held up their lunch until they were too hungry to wait any longer, and then they had it on the heather in front of their tents.
Funny,
said Julian.
Perhaps he'll come this afternoon.
But he didn't come in the afternoon either, nor did he come after tea. Mr. Luffy was busy all day long with his specimens. He was sorry Jock had disappointed them. He'll come tomorrow, he said. Have you got enough food? There's some in that tin over there if you want it.
Oh, no, thank you, sir,
said Julian.
We've plenty, really. We're going to have a game of cards. Like to join us?
Oh, yes, I think I will, said Mr. Luffy, getting up and stretching himself. Can you play rummy? They could, and they beat poor Mr. Luffy handsomely, because he couldn't play at all. They put the cards away when they could no longer see them, and Mr. Luffy announced that he was going to bed. The others thought they'd go to bed too. Everyone was sound asleep when Timmy gave a little growl. He got up, shook himself without waking George, and stalked out of the tent, his ears cocked and his tail up. Dick was sound asleep when he felt something brushing against the outside of his tent. He awoke at once and sat up. He looked at the tent opening. A shadow appeared there and looked in. Then the shadow spoke.
Dick, it's Jock here. I've got Timmy beside me. Can I come in? Jock,
said Dick in surprise.
Why didn't you come today? We waited ages for you. Yes, I know. I'm awfully sorry,
said Jock's voice, and the boy wriggled himself into the tent. Dick poked Julian awake.
Julian, here's Jock and Timmy. Get off me, Timmy. I say, I'm terribly sorry I didn't come today, but my stepfather suddenly announced he wanted me to go somewhere with him for the whole day. Never mind, come tomorrow instead,
said Dick.
I can't,
said Jock in despair.
He's gone and arranged for me to meet the son of some friend of his. I feel down in the dumps about that adventure. You know, going to see the railway yard. I was going to ask you to take me today. Well, if you can't come tomorrow either, and perhaps not the next day, what about going one night?
Said Dick.
Would you like to come up tomorrow night, about this time? You won't tell the girls. We'll just go off by ourselves, we three boys, and watch.
Jock was too thrilled to say a word. He let out a deep breath of joy. Dick laughed.
Oh, don't get too thrilled. We probably shan't see a thing. Bring a torch if you've got one, and don't say a word to anyone, of course.
At bedtime the next evening, the boys said good night to the girls and snuggled down into their sleeping bags. They watched the sky through the tent opening.
We shall have a bit of starlight to see by,
whispered Julian.
That's good. It's going to be fun,
Dick whispered back.
I hope Jock comes. It'll be maddening if he doesn't.
He did come. There was a scrambling over the heather, and once again a shadow appeared at the tent opening.
Julian, Dick, are you ready? Yes,
said Julian, and began to scramble quietly out of his bag. Dick got out of his bag too. The boys hadn't undressed that night, except for their coats, so all they had to do was to slip these on and then crawl out of the tent. It seemed very much farther to the railway yard at night than in the daytime. The three boys stumbled along, sometimes almost falling as their feet caught in tufts of heather. They were glad when they found some sort of path they could keep on. They went on for some way, and then Julian pulled Dick by the arm.
"Look,"
he said.
"down there. I believe that's the old yard. You can see the lines gleaming faintly here and there."
Jock clutched Julian's sleeve.
"Look, there's a light down there. Do you see it?"
The boys looked, and sure enough, down in the yard towards the other side of it was a small yellow light. They stared at it.
"Oh, I think I know what it is,"
said Dick at last.
"It's the light in the watchman's little hut. Old wooden-legged Sam's candle. Don't you think so, Ju?" "Yes, you're right. I tell you what we'll do. We'll creep right down into the yard and go over to the hut. We'll peep inside and see if old Sam is there."
They went slowly and softly to where the light shone dimly in Sam's little hut. The window was high and small. It was just about at the level of their heads, and the three boys cautiously looked in. Wooden-Leg Sam was there. He sat sprawled in a chair, smoking a pipe. He was reading a newspaper, squinting painfully as he did so. He obviously had not had his Bruck glasses mended yet. On a chair beside him was his wooden leg. He'd unstrapped it, and there it lay.
"Are there many lines in this yard?"
whispered Jock.
"Where do they go to?" "About half a mile or so up there is a tunnel,"
said Julian, pointing past Jock.
"Let's go up to the tunnel." "All right,"
said Julian. They made their way round the yard. Then they followed the line away from the yard. They walked along, talking in low voices. And then things began to happen. A far-off muffled noise came rumbling out of the tunnel, which was now so near that the boys could see its black mouth. Julian heard it first. He stood still and clutched Dick.
"I say, listen. Can you hear that?"
The noise grew louder and louder. A clanking made itself heard too. The boys stepped off the lines and crouched together by the side, waiting, hardly daring to breathe. Could it be the spook train? The noise came nearer and nearer and nearer. Could there be the noise of a train without a train? Julian's heart began to beat twice as fast, and Dick and Jock found themselves clutching one another without knowing it. The noise grew thunderous, and then out from the tunnel came something long and black, with a dull glow in front that passed quickly and was gone. The sound deafened the boys, and then the clanking and rumbling grew less as the train, or whatever it was, passed by. The ground trembled, and then was still.
"Well, there you are,"
said Julian, in a rather trembly voice.
"The spook train, without a light or a signal. Where's it gone? To the yard, do you think?" "Shall we go and see?"
asked Dick.
"I didn't see anyone in the cab, even in the glow of the fire there, but there must be someone driving it." "We'll go to the yard,"
said Jock, who of the three seemed the least affected.
"Come on."
They made their way very slowly, and then Dick gave a sharp cry.
"Oh, blow! I've twisted my ankle."
He sank down to the ground in great pain. It was only a sharp twist, not a sprain, but Dick could do nothing but groan. It took about 20 minutes for Dick's ankle to be strong enough for him to stand on again. With the help of the others, he got to his feet.
"It's all right, I think. I can walk on it, slowly. Now we'll go to the yard and see what's happening."
Even as they started to walk slowly back, they heard a noise coming up the lines from the faraway yard.
"It's coming back again,"
said Julian. Again the noise came nearer and grew thunderous. They saw the glow of the fire in the cab, and then it passed. The train disappeared into the blackness of the tunnel mouth, and they heard the echo of its rumblings for some time.
"Well, there you are. There is a spook train,"
said Julian, trying to laugh, though he felt a good deal shaken.
"And jolly creepy it was, too."
The three boys stood rather close together, glad to sense each other in the darkness. They couldn't believe that they had found what they'd come looking for so doubtfully.
"Let's go back,"
said Julian.
"That really was exciting. Honestly, my hair stood on end when that train came puffing out of the tunnel. Where on earth did it come from? And what's the reason for it?"
They gave it up and began to walk back to the camp.
"Shall we wake the girls and tell them we've seen the train?"
said Dick.
"No, it would only scare Anne. And George would be furious if she knew we'd gone without her. Right,
said Dick.
We'll tell him in the morning.
They reached their camping place and began to speak in whispers.
Goodbye, Jock. Goodbye. See you soon,
whispered Jock, and disappeared into the darkness. Next morning, Julian began to relate all the curious happenings of the night. Anne listened breathlessly. George was listening too, though she pretended not to. She was very angry and very hurt.
Well, there you are,
said Julian when he'd finished.
If that's what people mean by spook trains, there was one puffing in and out of that tunnel, all right. I felt pretty scared, I can tell you. Sorry you weren't there too, George, but I didn't want to leave Anne alone.
George was not accepting any apologies. She looked furious. There was a silence. Nobody ever quite knew how to treat George when she was in one of her moods. Later that morning, while Mr. Luffy was off chasing a day-flying moth, the two boys continued discussing the spook train mystery.
I'll tell you what we'll do, Dick,
said Julian.
We'll get Mr. Luffy to run us down to the nearest town to buy something, and we'll slip along to the station there and see if we can't make a few inquiries. Good idea,
said Dick. When Mr. Luffy came back, he approached him.
I say, sir, are you very busy today? Could you possibly run us down to the nearest town after lunch?
Certainly, certainly, said Mr. Luffy amiably. Anne called them to lunch.
Tell Mr. Luffy there's plenty for him too.
Mr. Luffy looked approvingly at the spread set out on a white cloth on the ground. Salad, hard-boiled eggs, slices of tongue, and what's this? Apple pie? My goodness. Don't tell me you cooked that here, Anne. Anne laughed.
No, all this came from the farm, of course, except the lime juice and water.
They finished lunch and drank all the lime juice. Well, said Mr. Luffy, beginning to fill his old brown pipe, if anyone wants to come into town with me this afternoon, I'll be starting in 15 minutes.
I'll come,
said Anne at once.
Will you come too, George? No,
said George, and the boys heaved a sigh of relief.
I'm going for a walk with Timmy.
George and Timmy set off. The others went with Mr. Luffy to where his car was parked beside the great rock. They went off in the car, jolting over the rough road till they came to the smooth highway. They stopped in the centre of the town. Mr. Luffy said he would meet them for tea at 5 o'clock at the hotel opposite the parking place. The three of them walked to the station. Julian turned to a young porter who was wheeling some luggage along.
I say, could you help us? We're camping up on the moorlands, near a deserted railway yard, with lines that run into an old tunnel. Why isn't the yard used anymore? Don't know,
said the boy.
Ask old Tucky there. See him? Thanks,
said Dick, pleased. They went over to where an old whiskered porter was sitting.
Excuse me,
said Julian politely.
I've been told that you know all about the moorland tunnels.
My father and my grandfather built they tunnels, said the old porter, looking up the children out of small, faded eyes that watered in the strong sunlight. And I've been guard on all the trains that run through they.
There's a tunnel near where we're camping,
said Julian.
We're not far from Ollie's farm. We came across an old deserted railway yard with lines that led into a tunnel. Do you know it?
Why, that's an old tunnel, said Tucky. Hasn't been used for many a long year. Nor the yard either. The boys exchanged glances. So it wasn't used any more. Well, they knew better. The porter, pleased at their interest, got up and went into an office behind. He came out with a dirty, much-used map, which he spread out on his knee. His black fingernail pointed to a mark on the map. That's the yard, see? It's called Ollie's Yard, after the farm. Them's the lines to the tunnel. Here's the tunnel. It runs right through to Kilty Vale. There 'tis. And here's where it used to join the tunnel to Roker's Vale. But that were bricked up years ago. Summat happened there. The roof fell in, I think it was, and the company decided not to use the tunnel to Roker's Vale at all.
I suppose no trains run through the tunnel from Kilty Vale to Ollie's Yard now, then,
Julian said. Tucky snorted. Didn't I tell ye it's not been used for years? The yard at Kilty's Vale's been turned into something else. though the lines are still there. There's been no engine through that tunnel since I were a young man. Julian bought old Tucky a packet of cigarettes, which gave him such a pleasant shock that he gave them the old map. They left the old man and went out into the town. They found a little park and sat down on a seat.
It's jolly strange,
said Dick.
No trains run there now. The tunnel's not been used for ages, and Ollie's yard must have been derelict for years. And yet there appear to be trains that come and go,
said Julian.
Chew,
said Dick suddenly.
I know what we'll do. We'll wait one night again until we see the spook train come out of the tunnel to the yard. Then one of us can sprint off to the other end of the tunnel. It's only about a mile long, and wait for it to come out on the other side. Then we'll find out why a train still runs from Kilty Vale to Ollie's yard through that old tunnel. Jolly good idea,
said Julian, thrilled.
What about tonight? If Jock comes, he can go too. If he doesn't, just you and I will go, not George.
George hadn't come back from her walk when they reached the camp. They waited for her, and at last she appeared with Timmy, looking tired out.
Sorry I was an ass this morning,
she said at once.
I've walked my temper off. Don't know what came over me.
That's all right,
said Julian amiably.
Forget it.
The children said good night to Mr. Luffy at 10 o'clock and got into their sleeping bags. Julian and Dick didn't mean to go exploring till midnight, so they lay and talked quietly. Jock didn't appear, so the two boys set off at a minute past midnight. They arrived at the deserted railway yard and looked to see if Wooden Leg Sam's candle was alight. It was. They were just scrambling down to the yard when they heard the train coming. There was the same rumbling noise as before, muffled by the tunnel. And then out of the tunnel, again with no lamps, came the spook train, clanking on its way to the yard.
Quick, Dick! You sprint off to the tunnel opening and watch for the train to go back in again. And I'll find my way across the moor to the other end of the tunnel. There was a path marked on that old map, and I'll follow that.
Julian's words tumbled over each other in his excitement.
I'll jolly well watch for the spook train to complete its journey and see if it vanishes into thin air or what.
Julian found the path quite by chance and went along it as fast as he could. It seemed a very long way, but at last the path led downwards, and some way below him Julian could see what might be a railway yard. Then he saw that big sheds were built there, or what looked like big sheds in the starlight. He remembered what the old porter had said. Kilty's yard was used for something else now. He slipped quickly down to the path and came into what once had been the old railway yard. Big buildings loomed up on every side. He switched his torch on and off very quickly, but the short flash had shown him what he was looking for. 2 pairs of railway lines. He knew they must lead to the tunnel. He followed them closely, right up to the black mouth of the dark tunnel. He stopped and wondered what to do.
I'll sneak into the tunnel a little way and see if it's bricked up anywhere,
he thought. So in he went, walking between 1 pair of lines. He put on his torch, certain that no one would see its light. The tunnel stretched before him, a great yawning hole disappearing into deep blackness. It was certainly not bricked up. Julian saw a little niche in the brickwork of the tunnel and decided to crouch in it. It was one of the niches made for workmen to stand in when trains went by in the old days. He waited, and he waited. Once he thought he heard a rumble far away down the tunnel, and he held his breath, feeling certain that the train was coming. But it didn't come. Julian waited for half an hour, and still the train hadn't appeared.
I'll wait another 10 minutes, and then I'm going,
Julian decided. After 10 minutes, he left the tunnel, went into Kilty's yard, and then up the path to the moors. He hurried along it, eager to see if Dick was at the other end of the tunnel. Dick was there. When he saw a quick flash from Julian's torch, he answered it with his own.
You've been ages,
said Dick.
What happened? The spook train went back into the tunnel ages and ages ago. Well, it never came out the other side. I never even heard it, though I did hear a very faint rumble once, or thought I did.
The boys fell silent, puzzled and mystified.
I suppose the entrance to that second tunnel the porter told us about is really bricked up,
said Julian at last.
If it wasn't, the train could go down there, of course. Yes, that's the only solution. If the train's a real one and not a spook one.
Agreed Dick.
Well, we can't go exploring the tunnels now. Let's wait and do it in the daytime. I've had enough tonight.
In the morning, George was furious. Julian and Dick related their night's adventure, and George could hardly believe that once again they had gone without her. George looked as if she could throw all the breakfast things at him. Fortunately for everyone, Jock arrived at that moment.
Hello, Jock,
said Julian.
Sit down and join us. I can't. I've only a few minutes. Listen, isn't it rotten? I'm to go away and stay with my stepfather's sister for 2 weeks. 2 weeks? But, Jock, why have you got to go away?
Said Dick.
I don't know. Mum won't say, but she looks pretty miserable. My stepfather's in a frightful temper. It's my opinion they want me out of the way for some reason. Well, come over here and stay with us if they want to get rid of you,
said Julian. Jock's face brightened.
I say, that's a fine idea,
he said.
Smashing,
agreed Dick.
If they want to get rid of you, it can't matter where you go. We'd love to have you. Right, I'll come. I'll not say a word about it, though, to my stepfather. I'll let Mum into the secret. I don't think she'll split on me, and I hope she'll square things with my step-aunt.
He went off to break the news to his mother, while the others washed up and cleared things away. George became sulky again when Jock was gone. When they began to discuss everything that happened the night before, George refused to listen.
I'm not going to bother about your stupid spook trains anymore,
she said.
You wouldn't let me join you when I wanted to, and now I shan't take any interest in the matter.
And she walked off with Timmy, not saying where she was going.
She's taken sandwiches,
said Anne.
She means to be gone all day. Isn't she an idiot?
Jock came back after a time, with 2 rugs and an extra jersey and more food.
I had hard work to persuade Mum, but she said yes at last. I say, isn't this sport? I never thought I'd be camping out with you. If there isn't room in your tent for me, Julian, I can sleep out on the heather.
Mr. Luffy came up and glanced at Jock. Ah, is this your friend from the farm? How do you do? Come to spend a few days with us? I see you have an armful of rugs.
Yes, Jock's coming to camp a bit with us,
said Julian.
Look at all the food he's brought. Enough to stand a siege.
It is indeed. Well, I'm going to go through some of my specimens this morning. Mr. Luffy went back to his tent, and they could hear him whistling softly as he set to work. Suddenly, Jock sat up straight and looked alarmed.
What's the matter?
asked Dick. Then he heard what Jock had heard. A shrill whistle blown loudly by somebody some way off.
That's my stepfather's whistle,
said Jock.
He's found out I've come over here.
Quick, let's scoot away and hide,
said Anne.
If you're not here, he can't take you back. Come on, maybe he'll get tired of looking for you and go.
All 4 shot down the slope and made their way to where the heather was high and thick. Mr. Andrews' voice could soon be heard shouting for Jock, but no Jock appeared. Mr. Andrews came out by Mr. Luffy's tent. Mr. Luffy, surprised at the shouting, put his head out to see what it was all about. "Where's Jock?" Mr. Andrews demanded. "Why, I really don't know," said Mr. Luffy. "He's got to come back with us," said Mr. Andrews. "I won't have him hanging about here with those kids." "Well, what's wrong with him?" inquired Mr. Luffy. "I must say, I find them very well behaved and pleasant-mannered." "Now, look here," said Mr. Andrews. "I don't know who you are, but you must be a friend of the children's. And if so, then I'd better warn you they're running into danger, see?" "Really? In what way?" asked Mr. Luffy mildly. "Well, there's bad and dangerous places about these moorlands," said Mr. Andrews. "Very bad, I know them. And those children have been messing about in them, see? And if Jock comes here, he'll start messing about too. And I don't want him to get into any danger. It would break his mother's heart." "Quite," said Mr. Luffy. "Well, will you talk to him and send him back?" said Mr. Andrews. "That railway yard now, that's a most dangerous place. And folks do say that there's spook trains there. I wouldn't want Jock to be mixed up in anything of that sort." "Quite," said Mr. Luffy again, looking closely at Mr. Andrews. "You seem very concerned about this railway yard." "I just don't want Jock to get into danger. I'd be most obliged if you'd talk to him and send him home when they all come back from wherever they are." "Quite," said Mr. Luffy again, most ingratiatingly. Mr. Andrews turned and went away. When he was a small speck in the distance, Mr. Luffy called loudly, "He's gone. Please send Jock here so that I can address a few words to him." 4 children appeared from their heathery hiding place. Jock went over to Mr. Luffy. "I just wanted to say," said Mr. Luffy, "that I quite understand why you want to be away from your stepfather, and that I consider it's no business of mine where you go in order to get away from him." Jock grinned.
Oh, thanks awfully,
he said. George had gone off with one fixed idea in her mind. She was going to find out something about that mysterious tunnel. She soon came to Ollie's yard. There it lay below her, with wooden-legged Sam pottering about. She went down to speak to him. He swung round, squinting at her fiercely. "You clear off!" he shouted. "I've been told to keep you children out of here, see?"
Who told you to keep us out?
asked George. "He did, see?" said the old man. He rubbed his eyes and then peered at George short-sightedly again. "You broke me glasses," he said.
Who's he?
said George. But the old watchman seemed to have one of his sudden queer changes of temper again. "You clear out," he said. "You look a nice kind of boy, you do. You wouldn't get wooden-legged Sam into trouble, would you?" George took the path that Julian had taken the night before, over the top of the tunnel. But she left it halfway to look at a curious bump that jutted up from the heather just there. She scraped away at the heather and found something hard beneath. She pulled at it, but it wouldn't give. Timmy came to help. He scrambled below the heather, and then he suddenly gave a bark of fright and disappeared. George screamed.
"Timmy, where are you?"
To her enormous relief, she heard Timmy's bark some way down. Where could he be? She called again, and once more Timmy barked. Suddenly she saw what the curious mound was. It was a built-up vent hole for the old tunnel, a place where the smoke came curling out in the days when trains ran there often. It had been barred across with iron, but the bars had rusted and fallen in, and the heather had grown thickly over them. She climbed down through the fallen-in vent. Once in the vent, she discovered steps made of great iron nails projecting out. There'd evidently once been a ladder up to the top of the vent. Most of the rungs had gone, but the iron nails that supported them still stood in the brick walls of the old round vent. She heard Timmy bark. He was quite near her now. Cautiously she went down the great hole. Her foot touched Timmy. He'd fallen on a collection of broken iron bars, which made a rough landing place for the dog to fall on.
Oh, Timmy,
said George, horrified.
however am I going to get you out of here? This hole goes right down into the tunnel.
She began to feel about for the iron rungs with her feet. Further down they were all there, and it was easy to climb lower and lower. She was soon down in the tunnel itself. She had her torch with her and switched it on. Then she nearly gave a scream of horror. Just near to her was a silent train. She could almost touch the engine. It looked very, very old and out of date. It was smaller than the trains she was used to. The engine was smaller, and so were the trucks. The funnel was longer, and the wheels were different from those of ordinary trains. It must be the spook train. George shivered. And just at that very moment, poor Timmy lost his foothold on the iron bars and fell with a thump beside her, and a groan was jerked out of him. In a trice, George was down by him on her knees.
Timmy, are you hurt?
Said Timmy, and got up on his 4 legs. He'd fallen on a pile of the softest soot. He shook himself violently, and soot flew out all over George. She didn't know or care. She hugged him, and her face and clothes grew black. George stood up. The only thing to do was to walk out of the tunnel. She wouldn't have fancied walking through the tunnel before, in case she met the spook train, but here it was, close beside her, and she'd been so concerned about Timmy that she'd quite forgotten it. She decided to examine the trucks. There were 4 of them, all covered trucks. Shining her torch, she climbed up into one of them, pulling Timmy up behind her. It was loaded with boxes. George was surprised. Why did a spook train run about with boxes in it? She shone her torch onto one, and then quickly switched it out. She'd heard a noise in the tunnel. She crouched down in the truck, put her hand on Timmy's collar and listened. It was a clanging noise. Then a light shone out, and the tunnel was suddenly as bright as day. The light came from a great lamp in the side of the tunnel. George peeped cautiously out through a crack. She saw that this place must be where the tunnel forked. One fork went on to Kilty's yard, but surely the other fork was supposed to be bricked up. George followed the lines with her eyes. One set went on down the tunnel to Kilty's yard, the other set ran straight into a great wall, which was built across the second tunnel that once led to Roker's yard. And then she stared in the greatest amazement, hardly believing her eyes. Part of the wall was opening. Before her very eyes, a great mass of it slid back in the centre of the wall, back and back, until an opening, about the size of the train itself, showed in the thick wall. George gasped. A man came through the opening. George felt sure she'd seen him somewhere before. He came up to the engine of the train and swung himself into the cab. There were all sorts of sounds then from the cab. What was the man doing? Starting the fire to run the train?
I must get out before it's too late,
thought George in a panic.
I only hope the man doesn't see me.
But just as she was about to try and get out, the engine gave a loud choo-choo and began to move backwards. It ran down the lines a little way, then forward again, and this time its wheels were on the set of lines that led to the small opening in the wall. The train went right through and came out into another tunnel. Here there was a bright light too. George peered out through the crack. There was more than a tunnel here. What looked like vast caves stretched away on each side of the tunnel, and men lounged about in them. Who on earth were they? And what were they doing? There was a curious noise at the back of the train. The hole in the stout brick wall closed up once more.
It's like Open Sesame and Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves,
thought George. The train was now at a standstill. Behind it was the thick wall, and then George saw that in front of it was a thick wall too. This tunnel must be bricked up in two places, and in between was this extraordinary cavern. George puzzled her head over the strange place, but couldn't make head or tail of it.
What are we to do, Timmy?
She whispered. Where's George? Asked Mr. Luffy.
Gone off by herself,
said Julian. Have you quarrelled by any chance? Said Mr. Luffy.
A bit,
said Julian. Where's she gone? Said Mr. Luffy, helping himself to a tomato. Why isn't she back to dinner?
She's taken hers with her,
said Anne.
I feel a bit worried about her somehow.
Mr. Luffy looked alarmed. I feel a bit worried myself, he said. Still, she's got Timmy with her.
We're going off on a bit of exploring,
said Julian, when they'd all finished eating.
What are you going to do, Mr. Luffy?
I'll stay here, said Mr. Luffy. They set off, taking their tea with them, to go to the old railway yard. Wooden Leg Sam was pottering about there as usual. They waved to him, but he shook his fist at them.
Well, we won't go down then,
said Dick with a grin.
We'll just walk along here, climb down the lines, and walk up them to the tunnel.
The mouth of the tunnel looked very round and black as they came near.
Now we'll jolly well walk right through this tunnel and see where that spook train is,
said Julian.
If it's a real spook train, it might completely disappear,
said Anne.
It won't have disappeared,
said Dick. They walked into the black tunnel and switched on their torches. Anne kept close to Dick and half wished she hadn't come. They came to where the tunnel forked into the second one that used to run to Roker's Vale. Julian flashed his torch on the enormous brick wall that stretched across the second tunnel.
Yes, it's well and truly bricked up,
he said.
So that only leaves this tunnel to explore. Come on.
They saw a little round circle of bright light some way in front of them.
See that?
Said Julian.
That must be the end of this tunnel, the opening that goes into Kilty's yard. Well, if the train isn't between here and Kilty's yard, it's gone.
In silence, they came out into the open air. Workshops were built all over Kilty's yard. The entrance to the tunnel was weed-grown and neglected.
Well, no train has been out of this tunnel here for years,
said Julian, looking at the thick weeds.
It's extraordinary,
said Dick.
We've been right through the tunnel, and there's no train there at all, yet we know it goes in and out of it. What's happened to it? It is a spook train,
said Jock, his face red with excitement.
Must be.
I don't like thinking that,
said Anne.
What are we going to do now?
said Julian.
Let's work back,
said Jock.
I'm not coming through that tunnel again.
Said Anne.
I'll walk over the top, along the path there, and you three can meet me at the other end.
Right,
said Julian, and the 3 boys disappeared into the tunnel. Anne ran up the path that led alongside the top of it. She got to the other end of the tunnel quite quickly, and sat down above the yard to wait. Wooden Leg Sam was nowhere to be seen. She hadn't been there for more than 2 minutes when a car came bumping slowly down the rough track to the yard. Anne sat up and watched. A man got out, and Anne's eyes almost fell out of her head. It was Mr. Andrews, Jock's stepfather. He went over to Sam's hut. Then she heard the sound of a heavy lorry coming. She saw it come cautiously down the track. It ran into an old shed. Then 3 men came out, and Anne stared at them. Where had she seen them before?
Of course. They're the farm labourers at Jock's farm,
she thought.
But what are they doing here?
Mr. Andrews joined the men, and to Anne's dismay, they began to walk up the lines to the tunnel. Goodness! Julian, Dick, and Jock were still in that tunnel, walking through it. They would bump right into Mr. Andrews and his men, and then what would happen? Anne stared at the 4 men walking into the tunnel. What could she do? How could she warn the boys? She couldn't. She would just have to stay there and wait. She waited and waited. Nobody came out of the tunnel. Not a sound was heard. Anne at last decided to go down and ask Wooden Leg Sam a few questions. Sam was in his hut, looking very sour. When he saw Anne's shadow across the doorway, he got up at once, shaking his fist.
What? You children again? Didn't you go into that there tunnel this afternoon? And didn't I telephone to Mr. Andrews to come and catch you all, poking your noses in all the time? How did you get out of that tunnel?
Anne listened to all this in horror. So old Sam had actually managed to telephone Mr. Andrews and tell tales of them.
You come in here, said Sam suddenly, and he darted his arm at her. Come on. I don't know where the others are, but I'll get one of you.
Anne gave a scream and ran away at top speed. Wooden Leg Sam went after her for a few yards and then gave it up. She tore up the path to the heather and was soon on the moors again, panting and sobbing. She now had only one idea in her mind, to find Mr. Luffy and to tell him every single thing. She came round the gorse bushes she thought were the ones sheltering the camp. But alas, the camp was not there. Anne had lost her way. In the meantime, the 3 boys had gone slowly along, examining the lines to see if a train could have possibly run along them recently. Few weeds grew in the dark, airless tunnel, so they couldn't tell by those. They talked earnestly as they went. They didn't see 4 men waiting for them, crouched in a little niche at the side of the tunnel in the dark.
Well,
said Julian,
I think...
4 dark figures suddenly pounced on the 3 boys and held them fast. Julian gave a shout and struggled, but the man who had hold of him was far too strong to escape from. Their torches were flung to the ground, and Julian's broke, and the other 2 torches lay there, their beams shining on the feet of the struggling company. "Take them all away," said a voice that everyone recognized at once.
Mr. Andrews, is it you?
Cried Julian.
Set us free. You know us, the boys at the camp. And Jock's here too. What do you think you're doing?
Their captors turned them about and led them roughly up the tunnel towards the middle. Nobody had a torch, so it was all done in the darkness. They came to a halt after a time. Then there came a curious noise, a bang, a clank, and then a sliding, grating sound. Julian strained his eyes in the darkness, but he could see nothing at all. He didn't know that Mr. Andrews was opening the bricked-up wall through which the train had gone. He and the others were pushed out of the first tunnel into the other one through the hole in the wall. Now they were in the curious place between the 2 walls where the spook train stood in silence.
"You were warned not to go down to that yard," said the voice of one of the men, "and you've got to suffer for not taking heed of the warning. You'll be tied up and left here till we've finished our business. Maybe that'll be 3 days, or maybe it'll be 3 weeks.
Look here, you can't keep us prisoner for all that time,
said Julian, alarmed.
Why, there'll be search parties out for us all over the place. They'll be sure to find us.
Oh, no, they won't, said the voice. No, Peters, tie him up.
Peters tied up the 3 boys. They had their legs tied and their arms too, and were set down roughly against a wall. Julian protested again.
What are you doing this for?
"We're not taking any chances," said the voice. It wasn't Mr. Andrews' voice, but a firm, strong one, full of determination and a large amount of annoyance. The feet of the 4 men moved away. Then there came the same noises again as the boys had heard before. They were made by the hole in the wall closing up. The noises stopped and there was dead silence. There was also pitch darkness. The 3 boys strained their ears and felt sure that the men had gone.
What's going to happen?
Came Jock's scared voice.
Shh,
said Julian suddenly.
I can hear something.
They all lay and listened.
It's a dog whining,
said Dick suddenly. It was. It was Timmy in the truck with George. He'd heard the voices of the boys he knew, and he wanted to get to them. But George, not yet sure that the men had gone, still had her hand on his collar. The boys listened hard. The whining came again. Then George let go of Timmy's collar, and he leapt out of the truck. In the darkness, Julian felt a wet tongue licking his face. A little bark told him who it was.
Timmy! I say, Dick, it's Timmy!
Cried Julian in joy. Said Timmy, and licked Dick next, and then Jock.
Where's George, then?
Wondered Dick.
Here,
said a voice. Out of the truck scrambled George, switching on her torch as she did so. She went over to the boys. She took out her sharp knife, and in a few moments she'd cut the boys' bonds, and they all sat up, rubbing their sore ankles and wrists, groaning.
Oh, thanks, George. Now I feel fine,
said Julian, getting up.
Where are we? Gracious, is that an engine there?
that, Julian, is the spook train,
said George with a laugh.
Yes, it is, really.
But we walked all the way down the tunnel and out of the other end without finding it,
said Julian, puzzled.
Listen, Ju,
said George.
you know where that second tunnel is bricked up, don't you? Well, there's a way in through the wall. A whole bit of it moves back in a sort of open sesame manner. The spook train can run in through the hole on the rails. Once it's beyond the wall, it stops, and the hole is closed up again.
George switched her torch round to show the astonished boys the wall through which they'd come. Then she swung her torch to the big wall opposite.
See that?
She said.
There are 2 walls across this second tunnel, with a big space in between where the spook train hides. Clever, isn't it?
George swung her torch on the 3 boys and then asked,
I say, where's Anne?
Anne, she didn't want to come back with us through the tunnel, so she ran over the moorlands to meet us at the other end,
said Julian.
She'll be worried stiff. I only hope she doesn't come wandering up the tunnel to meet us.
Julian turned to George.
Swing your torch round and let's see these caves. There doesn't seem to be anyone here now. We could have a snoop round.
George swung her torch round. By the light of the torch, Jock caught sight of a switch on the wall. He crossed to it and pulled it down. Immediately the place was flooded with a bright light.
That's better,
said Julian. He looked at the spook train standing silently near them on its rails.
I hid in that truck there,
said George, pointing, and she told them her own adventure.
Come on, let's look at these caves,
said Dick. The nearest one was packed with crates and boxes of all kinds. Julian pulled one open, whistled.
Look here. Crates of tea, crates of whiskey and brandy, boxes and boxes of stuff. Goodness knows what. This is a real black market hiding place.
The boys explored a little further. The caves were piled high with valuable stuff worth thousands of pounds.
All stolen, I suppose,
said Dick.
Let me see. They steal it, pile it onto lorries at night, take it somewhere temporarily. Yes, to my mother's farm,
said Jock.
All those lorries there in the barn, that's what they're used for. And they come down to Ollie's yard at night, and the stuff is loaded in secret onto the old train that comes puffing out to meet them, and then it's taken back here and hidden.
Julian whistled.
You're right, Jock. That's just what happens. What a cunning plot. Your stepfather must make a lot of money at this game,
said Dick to Jock.
Yes, that's why he can afford to pour money into the farm,
said Jock miserably.
Poor Mum. This will break her heart. All the same, I don't think my stepfather's the chief one in this. There's somebody behind him. Yes,
said Julian, thinking of the mean little Mr. Andrews with his big nose and weak chin.
there probably is.
They decided to go back to the tunnel where the train was,
It's just possible we might find the switch that works the open sesame bit.
said Julian. In the tunnel they looked about for any lever or handle that might perhaps open the hole in the wall. There didn't seem to be anything at all. Then George suddenly came across a big lever low down in the brick wall itself. She tried to move it and couldn't. She called Julian.
Ju, come here.
The 3 boys came over. Julian tried to swing the lever down. Nothing happened. Then he and Dick pushed it upwards with all their strength, and hey presto, there came a bang from somewhere, and something heavy shifted, and then a clanking as if machinery was at work. Then came the sliding, grating noise, and a great piece of the brick wall moved slowly back and then swung round sideways and stopped. The way of escape was open.
Open sesame!
Said Dick.
Better switch off the light here.
Said Julian. He stepped back and switched it off, and the place was in darkness again. George put on her torch, and its feeble beam lighted up the way of escape.
Come on,
Said Dick, and they all crowded out of the hole.
we'll make for Ollie's yard.
They began to make their way down the dark tunnel. They hadn't gone more than a quarter of a mile before Julian stopped suddenly. The 4 of them, and Timmy, listened, hardly daring to breathe. Somebody was coming up the tunnel towards them. They could see the pinpoint of a torch and hear the distant crunch of footsteps.
Other way, quick!
Whispered Julian, and they all turned round. With Jock leading them now, they made their way as quickly and quietly as they could back to the place where the 2 tunnels met. They passed it and went on towards Kilty's yard, hoping to get out that way. But alas for their hopes, a lantern stood some way down the tunnel there, and they didn't dare go on. What were they to do? Then George remembered something.
Julian, Dick, we could climb up that vent that I came down.
She whispered.
Where is the vent?
Said Julian urgently.
Quick, find it.
George tried to remember. Yes, it was on the other side of the tunnel, near the place where the 2 tunnels met. She must look for the pile of soot. She found it.
Here it is.
She whispered.
But, oh, Julian, how can we take Timmy?
We can't.
Said Julian.
We must hope he'll manage to hide, and then slink out of the tunnel by himself. He's quite clever enough.
He pushed George up the vent, and her feet found the first rungs. Then Jock went up, his nose almost on George's heels. Then Dick, and last of all Julian. But before he managed to climb the first steps, something happened. A bright glare filled the tunnel. Timmy slunk into the shadows and growled in his throat. Then there came a shout. "Who opened the hole in the wall?" It was Mr. Andrews's voice. Then came another voice, angry and loud. "Who's here? Who's opened this place?" "Those kids can't have moved the lever," said Mr. Andrews. We bound them up tightly." The men, 3 of them, went quickly through the hole in the wall. Julian climbed up the first few rungs, thankfully. Poor Timmy was left in the shadows at the bottom. Out came the men at a run. "They've gone! Their ropes are cut! How could they have escaped?" The men hunted everywhere. They'd no idea that the vent was nearby in the wall. They didn't see the dog that slunk by them like a shadow, keeping out of their way and lying down whenever the light from a torch came near him. George climbed steadily, feeling with her feet for the iron nails whenever she came to broken rungs. Then she came to a stop. Something was pressing on her head. She put her hand to feel. It was the collection of broken iron bars that Timmy had fallen on that morning. He'd dislodged some of them, and they'd then fallen in such a way that they'd lodged across the vent, all twined into each other. George could climb no higher. Outside his tent, Mr. Luffy sat, reading peacefully. But as the evening came, and then darkness, he became very worried indeed about the 5 children. He wondered what to do. It was hopeless for one man to search the moors. He decided to get his car and go over to Ollie's farm to get the men from there. But when he got there, he found no one at home except Mrs. Andrews. Mrs. Andrews looked bewildered and worried.
Oh, it's you, Mr. Luffy.
She said when he told her who he was.
Mr. Luffy, something queer is happening.
All the men have gone, and all the lorries too. My husband has taken the car, and nobody will tell me anything.
Mr. Luffy decided not to add to her worries. He just pretended he'd come to collect some milk. "Don't worry," he said comfortingly. "You'll find things are all right in the morning, I expect." He went bumping along the road in his car, puzzled. He hoped the children hadn't got mixed up in anything dangerous. "I'd better go down and report to the police that they're missing," he thought. He told what he knew at the police station, and the sergeant, an intelligent man, at once mustered 6 men in a police car. They went quickly up to the moors, and the 6 men began to fan out to search, with Mr. Luffy at the head. And the first thing they found was Anne.
Oh, Mr. Luffy, you must save the boys.
She begged him.
They're in that tunnel, and they've been caught by Mr. Andrews and his men, I'm sure. They didn't come out, and I waited and waited. Do come.
I've got some friends here who will certainly come and help," said Mr. Luffy gently. He called the men, and in a few words told them what Anne had said. "In the tunnel?" said one of them. "Well, come on, men. We'll go down there." They went straight to the tunnel and walked up it quietly. Mr. Luffy was a good way behind with Anne. Meanwhile, Julian and the others had been in the vent for a good while, tired and uncomfortable. The men had searched in vain for them, and were now looking closely into every niche at the sides of the tunnel. And, of course, they found the vent. One of the men shone his light up it. It shone on Julian's feet. "Here they are! Now come on down, or it'll be the worse for you." One of the men climbed up the vent and caught hold of Julian's foot. He dragged so hard that the boy's foot was forced off the rung. His tired arms gave way, and he fell heavily down. Soon Dick felt his feet being tugged at too.
All right, I'll come down,"
He yelled and climbed down. Then Jock climbed down too. "Giving us a chase like this? Who undid your ropes?" said Mr. Andrews. One of the men put his hand on his arm and nodded up towards the vent. "Someone else is coming down," he said. "Who's this, then?" It was George, of course. Down she came, as black as soot. "Another boy?" said the men. "Where did he come from?" "Any more up there?" asked Mr. Andrews.
"Look and see,"
said Julian, and got a box on the ears for his answer. Suddenly a cry came from down the tunnel. "Police! Run for it!" A man came tearing up the tunnel. "The police are coming!" he gasped. "Run for it! Somebody split on us!" "Get along to Kilty's yard!" shouted Peters. "We can get cars there!" The men tore down the tunnel. George found her voice.
Timmy, where are you? After them, Timmy! Stop them!
A black shadow came streaking by out of the hole in the wall where Timmy had been hiding. He raced after the men like a greyhound. The policeman came running up, and Mr. Luffy and Anne came up behind them.
They've gone down there, with Timmy after them!
Shouted George.
George!
Shrieked Anne in delight.
Julian! Oh, are you all safe? I went back to tell Mr. Luffy about you and I got lost.
From down the tunnel came shouts and yells and loud barks. Timmy was at work. He'd caught up with the men and launched himself on them one after another, bringing each one heavily to the ground. They were terrified to find a big animal growling and snapping all around them. Timmy held them at bay, not allowing them to go one step further. The police ran up. In a trice, each of the men was imprisoned by a pair of strong arms, and they were being told to come quietly. "Well, I don't think I ever in my life saw dirtier children," said Mr. Luffy. "I vote we all go back to my car, and I drive the lot of you over to Ollie's farm for a meal and a bath." So back they all went, tired and also feeling very thrilled. Mrs. Andrews was sensible and kind, though upset to hear that her husband had been taken off by the police. She got hot water for baths and laid a meal for the hungry children. "I wouldn't worry over much, Mrs. Andrews," said kindly Mr. Luffy. "That husband of yours needs a lesson, you know. This will probably keep him going straight in future. The farm is yours, and you can now hire proper farm workers who will do what you want them to do. And I think Jock will be happier without a stepfather for the present.
I think you're right, Mr. Luffy.